Doctors of Reddit. What is the weirdest thing a patient wouldn't admit? Not a doctor but a nurse. Had a patient come in with a toothpick in his penis. Refused to tell me how it got in there. Insisting he was picking his teeth and it fell in. Ah, the ol' head on a stick. Being pregnant and also a virgin. People actually believe women can get inseminated in a public pool or after their parents had sex in the jacuzzi and the girl uses the jacuzzi and is inseminated by the father. I was once marked as pregnant by mistake when I went into the They were talking about the tests they needed to run. But they couldn't give me medication because of the baby. At that point I said, hold up. There is no way I'm pregnant. The nurse looked at me and rolled her eyes. I told her that I've only ever slept with women in the last couple of years. So there was no way I was pregnant. One of the other nurses reran the pregnancy test. And turns out I wasn't pregnant. I admitted a guy for chest pain. As part of the workup. I did a urine drug screen which came back positive for cocaine. After the rest of his cardiac workup was negative. I said to him, good news. You didn't have a heart attack. It's likely that your chest pain was caused by cocaine. His answer, I didn't use cocaine. I was at a party and people had some lines of cocaine out on a table. As I was walking by, an oscillating fan blew the cocaine into my face. Which is why my urine was positive. Got it. Yeah, cuz parties with Anya on the table frequently have fans near the coke. That's why it's an oscillating fan. You make a game of timing your lines between the fan sweeps. Obligatory, not a doctor. I'm a nurse. We had a patient come into the operating room for brain surgery. Probably a mid-50s guy with a nice head of light brown hair. Before a patient comes into the actual OR, we ask them a series of questions. Including whether they have any implants, jewelry, non-hospital clothes on, etc. Guy says no to all the questions. After the patient gets put to sleep, the surgeon grabbed his hair to start shaving it off because brain surgery, and all his hair peeled off because he was wearing a wig and didn't tell us. We almost shaved his hair piece because he wouldn't admit to anyone he wore it. Nurse here. Had parents bring their 3-year-old son to the emergency department for 1 month of abdominal pain that kept getting worse. I ask all the routine questions for this complaint. Lots of questions about his poop. Is it bloody? Diarrhea? Mucus? When was his last bowel movement? Any changes in the stool? They deny any other concerning symptoms but abdominal pain. We do blood work, ultrasound, X-ray. Everything comes back completely normal but the kid is intermittently screaming in pain. Curled in a ball. Over the next 5 hours I continue to repeat the same questions. I asked repeatedly if there was anything else going on that they could think of. Nope. The kid just doesn't seem well but we have no reason to keep him. We decide to watch him a little longer. Let him eat. The kid eats a bunch. A PBJ, apple juice, crackers, popsicle. No pain, so we decide to send them home. I bring in the discharge paperwork and I'm about to start going over instructions and dad goes, For the past 3 months he's had a lot of worms in his poop. Worms. King worms. You spent 6+ hours denying worms. I literally just turned around and walked out of the room without saying a word. I was laughing almost to the point of tears. Could not wait to tell my resident. Deworming medications. Load of wasted time. And they were on their way. One of my lecturers told us a story of when he worked in ed. There was a man who refused to acknowledge or tell them how a jar got stuck in his RCTUM. They were taking him to the OR as it has created a vacuum seal and couldn't be removed without shattering, but realized his BSL, blood sugar level, was off the charts. Really high. They were considering postponing the surgery to work out WTF was going on. When he ended up talking, he told them the jar was full of honey before it got lodged. And was rapidly absorbed by the RCTUM. Causing the insane levels. What? Oh brother. Silly old bear. Obligatory, not a doctor. Used to work PR and marketing in an inner city hospital. Was once hanging out with the folks when a regular came in. He was into self-harm. This would have been in 2000-2001 or so and I was young. So I had never even heard of this. This guy had spent hours burying a Phillips head screwdriver in his abdomen, carefully working it around major organs. He was a Vietnam medic and had some training. So he could feasibly do it. He straight up said, "What screwdriver? You all are crazy." The attending was staring right at the X-ray and the handle of the screwdriver sticking out of his abdomen. The screwdriver must have been 4 inches long. I still shudder. I once had a patient come in with large calluses on the front of his ankles, which is a very unusual place to get calluses. I brought it up a few times because I thought maybe he was wearing his shoe wear improperly. But he kept waving off the question. Eventually I got him to admit that the calluses are there because he recently started taking a prescription antidepressant medication which made it very difficult for him to achieve orgasm. He found that if he lay on his living room carpet with his legs bent out beneath him in AW fashion and jerked off for several hours he was able to achieve or ASM. Nurse here had a patient accuse me of sheeting in her bed and threatened to sue me for malpractice. Keynote, she never got out of her bed. Nursing assistant here. I've been accused of shishting in the corner of a patient's room. She did it and then tried to blame some really nondescript man as the culprit after realizing no one believed it was me. Had a patient in hospital. I forget what for. The point is that he disappeared for a few hours. When he came back he was tachycardic to 160 bpm. Massive pupils. Couldn't sit still. We asked him what he'd taken while he was out. Nothing. He swears. He went to the Puban, just drank lemonade. Okay. We say, we're gonna take some blood and find out what you've taken. He then pipes up the friends he was with would think it was funny to spike his drink. What? We asked. Did he think they might have spiked his drink with speed? He says. What do you know? Bloods confirmed that he had taken speed. But he insists he didn't take it. His drink was spiked. Ah. The old speedy beer slipperoo. All my friends play this trick on each. It's hilarious. This one is sad. From my old roommate, girl had a very large lump on her BR ass that she didn't tell the doctors about. She actually went to the hospital for migraines, saying they were getting increasingly bad. When they found the lump, they asked why she didn't say she had that. She said she knew it was going to kill her eventually. But she just wanted to get rid of the migraines because they giving her a lot of pain in her last months. I guess it's not super weird that this patient wouldn't admit this. But it's weird in the sense that it was super obvious what happened, so he might as well just admit it. I used to do patient registration in the 2 of us were wheeling around our computers and registering patients off of ambulances and getting patient information in rooms. A middle-aged guy comes in on an ambulance and my coworker takes it. So I'm finishing up some paperwork and I go to our front office and pull up the patient tracker board so I can see what still needs to be done, and a new patient pops up on the board. Chief complaint, eyeliner pens stuck in PNIS. My coworker walks into the office looking scarred. She explained. The nurse asked him what happened and he said he slipped. She told him that doesn't seem likely. So he said he had an itch and thought it would help. We later found out from the nurse that he finally admitted that he saw it on TV and thought it would feel good. It was all around a sad situation, and I hope someone told him about sounding and he did some research on safe practices for kinks, fetishes. Apparently they were both lodged in there pretty badly. Edited for clarity, sorry lol. This one happened just the other day. Had a patient come in looking pretty sick. Labs and vitals said the guy was in sepsis and most likely had a bad infection. The question was where. After some prodding and letting him know the seriousness of his situation, he finally admitted to the source of his infection. He didn't want to say it, so he just pointed between his legs. Looking underneath his underwear revealed a smelly, red, swollen, pus-draining SCR tum. Some of it was even black and necrotic. Not a pleasant sight, and it looked horribly painful. He went on to explain that he had a painful lump on one of his testicles a few weeks back. He was told it was an infection and given antibiotics. The problem didn't go away, and by then he had decided to take matters into his own hands. Literally. He tied a string tight around one testicle and proceeded to cut it out himself. Needless to say, it became horribly infected and was going to require surgical intervention. Guy ended up doing okay. Once had a woman come in for a possible yeast infection. On exam she had a glass bottle stuck in her VA anal filled with urine. Totally wouldn't admit it was hers or explain how it got there even after we removed it. Just kept saying, "I think this is all a joke and you put it up there." Had a patient refuse to admit he swallowed a pen, even though an X-ray showed the pen in his small bowel and we took the pen out during an emergency surgery. I'm a CT tech and I was to scan a woman's abdomen for belly pain. She and her girlfriend were there. I have to have a pregnancy test. I have to have one done. I can't radiate a fetus. I even ask nuns, so no exceptions. She denies up and down she's pregnant. And then, after the test I did, it said she was. She denied it and demanded a blood test, since she was a lesbian and never has sex with men. Well, the blood test came back positive also, surprise. And the argument that ensued was biblical. She was arguing with her girlfriend and the nurses and the doctor. I never ended up scanning her and they chalked up her pain to her being pregnant. The look on her girlfriend's face when I said it came back positive was one I will never forget. I'm a nurse, not a doctor. But it's amazing how many patients lie about how much they drink. Dude, we aren't judging you. We just want to know if we need to worry about you detoxing when you come out of open heart or any other surgery.